October 1918. The First World War was entering its final phase. After more than 4 years of fighting, Europe was exhausted. Armies had moved back and forth across the same ground for years. Villages had disappeared. Forests had been reduced to splintered wood and mud. In northeastern France, in the Argonne Forest, American forces were advancing as part of a large offensive during World War I. Among them was the 77th Infantry Division. Many of its soldiers were recent recruits from New York City. Clerks, laborers, students, immigrants, men who, not long before, had lived civilian lives. On October 2nd, around 550 of these soldiers pushed forward into dense woodland. The terrain was difficult. Thick trees, limited visibility, uneven ground. As they advanced, neighboring units failed to keep pace. German forces maneuvered around them. Within days, the American detachment was surrounded. Their supply lines were cut. Their communication lines were destroyed. There was no clear route back. Later, history would call them the Lost Battalion. At the time, they were simply isolated. Conditions grew steadily worse. Food was rationed carefully. Water became scarce. The wounded accumulated. German machine gun nests overlooked parts of the forest, making movement dangerous even during daylight. Then another complication emerged. American artillery units, positioned miles away, began firing on incorrect coordinates. Shells intended for German positions landed among their own troops. In World War I, mapping errors and communication delays were common. But for the men in the forest, the consequences were immediate. They were under attack from both sides. The situation required a message. The artillery fire had to be corrected. Field telephones had already been cut. Messengers sent on foot failed to return. There was only one method left: carrier pigeons. During the war, pigeons were widely used. Radio equipment was unreliable and easily intercepted. But pigeons, trained to return to a fixed location, could carry small written messages across long distances. The unit still had several birds. A message was written. Their coordinates were carefully noted. They stated clearly that American artillery was firing on their position. The note was placed into a small metal capsule. It was attached to a pigeon's leg. The first bird was released. It was shot down. The second was released. It did not reach headquarters. German soldiers had begun targeting the pigeons. Only one bird remained. Her name was Cher Ami. The name means "dear friend." A final message was prepared. Short, direct, precise. It identified their position. It requested that the artillery barrage stop immediately. The capsule was secured to Cher Ami's leg. The soldiers released her into the air. For a brief moment, there was only the sound of wings. Then, rifle fire. German troops saw the movement overhead. Shots followed. Cher Ami was struck. A bullet passed through her breast. One eye was severely damaged. Her right leg was shattered. Despite the injuries, she remained airborne. The distance to division headquarters was approximately 40 kilometers. She flew it in about 25 minutes. Wounded, losing blood, partially blinded. When she arrived, she collapsed. The message capsule was still attached. The coordinates were read. The artillery fire was corrected. Roughly 200 men from the surrounded unit ultimately survived. Exact numbers vary in historical records, but the message clearly prevented further casualties. Cher Ami received medical treatment. Her shattered leg had to be amputated. A small wooden prosthetic was later fitted. For her service, France awarded her the Croix de Guerre, a military decoration recognizing bravery in combat. After the war, she was brought to the United States. In 1919, complications from her injuries led to her death. Today, her preserved body is displayed at the Smithsonian Institution. She is small, unassuming, easy to overlook. During the First World War, hundreds of thousands of pigeons were used for military communication. Most were never recorded by name. Cher Ami's story was preserved because her flight had a measurable result. In large wars, attention often focuses on generals and strategies, but outcomes can depend on smaller factors. On communication, on timing, on whether a message arrives. In October of 1918, in a forest in France, a single pigeon carried a correction, and that correction saved lives. The war would continue for several more weeks. Armies would continue to move. But for the men in that section of the Argonne Forest, one flight was enough.